Well, this is probably going to take a little longer than 5 minutes tonight. I'm sorry if I keep you a little bit late. Kind of far away up here. I was thinking about bringing my binoculars. Kind of used to standing down there. Anyway, this photo here you're looking at is, I was in the Navy many years ago, probably over 45 years ago, and we'd get deployed to Iceland every summer. And when we went there, we didn't have a whole lot to do. When we weren't on duty, we'd just sit in our rooms maybe and listen to music and things like this. And we'd go down to the PX and buy albums. And one time, this photo here is actually of approach to Greenland, Thule, Greenland. We flew over there one day, and I took this shot. And I don't know exactly what the reason what we went there for, but when we came back, the guys kind of loaded up all their stereo equipment that they had. And so we kind of cleaned out their PX. I'm sure they probably didn't like us showing up there, but that's what happened. We went back to Iceland and listened to our music. And one of the albums that I bought was this one here called The Moody Blues, A Question of Balance. I kind of like that album. I still like it. And I liked it so well that I painted it on the wall of my barracks, on the wall. That's a painting that I made right there. I copied the album cover a little bit, and like I said, we had plenty of time to listen to things. And I like the last song on this thing. The last song is called The Balance. And I'm going to read it to you here. These are the opening lyrics to that song. He says, after he had journeyed, and his feet were sore, and he was tired, he came upon an orange grove, and he rested. And he lay in the cool. And while he rested, he took to himself an orange and tasted it, and it was good. And he felt the earth to his spine, and he asked. And he saw the tree above him, and the stars, and the veins in the leaf, and the light, and the balance. And he saw magnificent perfection, whereon he thought of himself in balance, and he knew he was. Now, I don't know, there's lots of things that influence people over their lives to approach God or to think about creation. And this one here, really, I thought about it with this song and with this album, actually, and thinking about nature and how things were made and who made them. And a lot of times, probably, an apple doesn't fall far from its tree, because my father, John Adams, used to tell us when we were young that he'd like to look at the insects, and he was amazed at how they were made, and that's what he was thinking about during the day. So it kind of actually goes along with this verse in Romans, verse 20, in the first chapter. It says, since the creation of the world, his invisible attributes, his eternal power and divine nature have been clearly seen, being understood through what has been made, so that they are without excuse. And looking at nature and the creation, I'd like to show you a couple of things that I thought about that you might be interested in. Maybe you've heard about it before, maybe you haven't, maybe you've thought about it. But first one is migratory birds. How do they know which way south is? And how do they know which way north is when, in the springtime when they come back? And they fly this way and they just head south. How do they know where they're going? So I did look it up on the internet a little bit, and they've done a few experiments on it. And one of the experiments was done in a planetarium. I'm not sure if you know what a planetarium is, so I'm just going to read a definition of a planetarium so you'll probably understand what I'm talking about here. A planetarium is a theater built primarily for presenting educational and entertaining shows about astronomy and the night sky, or for training in celestial navigation. A dominant feature of most planetaria is the large dome-shaped projection screen onto which scenes of stars, planets, and other celestial objects can be made to appear and move realistically to simulate the complex motions of the heavens. So basically what you have is a building with a theater with a dome on the top, and they project little light dots on there to imitate stars and planets. So what they did, they took a migratory bird in the springtime when they're supposed to be flying to the north, and they set the planetarium up accurately, and they put this bird in there, and he was in a caged bird, and he positioned himself towards the north. And so then they took him out of there, and they changed the scenery in there, and they switched it around so that the north was facing the other direction. They put him back in there, and he faced basically to the south, but he was basically navigating by the stars and by the planets. I find that kind of amazing, that God really was able to create a being that would do that. Another thing they did too, they don't want to try this at home now either, because they put a magnet on the bird's head. Took a little magnet, put it on his head, and when they did that, the bird couldn't tell which way north, south was. They couldn't navigate properly. And sometimes when a large underground antenna was turned on, it altered the Earth's magnetic field enough where the birds in that area couldn't navigate properly. So they're actually using the stars at night probably, and the magnetic field of the Earth too. I find that as amazing that God's created them that way. There's another one that I'm kind of amazed at, and that's the fish salmon. Yeah, you probably already know this, and maybe you've heard this before. But salmon, they spawn in freshwater streams, and then when they get old enough, they swim downstream to the ocean for about 5 years, and they stay in the ocean for 5 years. Well, after that period of time, they amazingly come back to the same place, the same stream that they were born in, and they swim upstream and spawn again. How could they find that way? As far as I know, they still don't know how salmon can locate the same stream that they've spawned in. And that kind of blows a big old hole in the evolutionist theory that a fish became something and a fish became another fish, or something became a fish. Because if that was true, all salmon would go to the same stream, wouldn't they? But they don't. They go to all different streams everywhere. So that kind of proves just that little simple thing that salmon do is just amazing to me. There's another little thing too. Probably many of you are gardeners. And when springtime comes, you go out and you take your garden seeds and you go out and you plant them a certain depth in the soil. I don't know, half an inch or something, and then it rains, or maybe you water it, and eventually a plant springs up. But in nature, in the creation, there's nobody there to bury that seed, to a certain depth. And I'm sure this doesn't apply to all plants, but I have an oak tree in my yard, and I've watched it. And then in the summertime, it starts growing acorns and so forth. And after a while, the acorns drop on the ground. And the leaves are still in the trees. And everything's going fine. The deer come along and they eat some acorns. Maybe the squirrels come by and eat a few, bury a few maybe. But then after a while, this acorn's left on the ground, and the leaves fall on top of them, and they bury their own seeds. So that tree is actually it's burying its own seeds. I think that's pretty neat too. And I like that. So the following verse, in the first part, we looked at Romans 1:20, but you have to kind of be careful because you don't want to end up worshiping the creation. In 1:25 it says, "For they exchanged the truth of God for a lie and worshipped and served the creature rather than the Creator, which is blessed forever." So we don't want to fall into that hole. But I'd like to encourage you all to examine nature, look around, increase your faith. If there's anyone here tonight that would need help from our congregation, I'd like to invite you to come forward this afternoon. We stand and sing this song.